Greetings one and all. I wanted to do a little Gurdjieff dissection, and I'm going to be reading from Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson and discussing what it is that he has written here. So this is from the chapter called Beelzebub's Second Descent to Earth. So he's met up with a guy and been chatting away with him. The priest Abdil is the guy he's talking to. And they're discussing the whole terror of the universe, the terror of the world, what we're here for, why are humans here, what is the point of human beings being on this planet, what is the point of all beings. And Beelzebub says to the priest Abdil, and what is most distressing is that every man who destroys the existence of other beings in honour of his honoured idols does so with all his heart, and is convinced beyond all doubt that he is doing a good deed. Now I come from a very strong point myself that I think all religions lead to God, the divine. You know, there's many paths to Rome, as they say, so there's many paths to the divine, and we should be tolerant of all other people's beliefs, other people's faiths. Tolerance is a very important part of faith, and also most faiths, well, I think all faiths, come from the idea of the do unto others what you would have done to yourself. But coming back to idols, well, what are idols? They're just false gods in other people's opinions. You know, a Christian would think that perhaps a pagan god would be an idol. A Muslim would think that a crucifix was an idol. And so on and so on. You know, we could discuss this for ages. You know, the Old Testament, the God in that old book, the angry old God of the Old Testament, used to tell them, you know, adore no other idol, just me. And people with their faith believe so much that their faith is the one and only true way that they begin to hate upon other faiths, which, you know, as I said at the beginning, is not right. We should be tolerant of other people's beliefs and why they believe in that way. Otherwise we're becoming dogmatic. And Gurdjieff goes on, this is Beelzebub talking, I'm quite sure that if any one of them should become aware that in destroying another's existence he is not only committing an evil deed against the true God and every real saint, but is even causing them in their essences sorrow and grief, that there should exist in the great universe, in the likeness of God, being monsters who can manifest towards other creations of our common Creator, so consciencelessly and pitilessly. I repeat, if any of them should become aware of this, then certainly not one among them could, with all his heart, ever again destroy the existence of beings of other forms for sacrificial offerings. So we know that in many religions there are sacrificial offerings, and in olden times they even used to sacrifice people or animals. And maybe some people still do that in their dark ways. But as he says here, this is creating being monsters who can manifest towards other creations of our common Creator. And it does it consciencelessly and pitilessly. It's kind of soulless, so it has no feeling, thoughts as to what it's doing. It's just on an evil streak. But he's also talking about destroying another's existence, and that's also people. We've had many religious wars over the centuries, or the millennia. And again, this is not creating a good karma, and as I'm sure many of you know, we don't want bad karma, we want to go forward with good karma, and war is wrong, isn't it? We shouldn't be fighting each other for someone else's religious belief. But there's something that makes people do that. And as he was saying, this causes sorrow and grief to the within the great universe, that then fluctuates out towards the common Creator, his endlessness, as Gurdjieff calls him, the divine source. And it's interesting that he says, but even in causing them in their essences sorrow and grief, that there should exist in the great universe, in the likeness of God, being monsters who can manifest towards other creations of our common Creator, so consciously and pitilessly. Why do people do this? Why do people destroy other people? Well, Beelzebub answers, obviously in Gurdjieff's words, then perhaps on the earth also will begin to exist the 18th personal commandment of our common Creator, which declared, love everything that breathes. Love is a universal law, unconditional love of everything that breathes, it should be. Well, I'm not rewriting Gurdjieff's words here, but that's what I'm ad-libbing, I suppose. Unconditional love going forth. If we love everything that breathes, man, woman, child, animals, insects, birds, everything that breathes. And I believe the rocks breathe, the trees and the plants obviously breathe. I know we have to use animals and plants and trees for food. Everything eats itself, as Gurdjieff is constantly reminding us. As the laws of the universe go round, everything's eating itself. And he goes on to say, this offering to God of sacrifices by destroying the existence of his other creations is just as if somebody from the street should now break into your house and wantonly destroy all the goods there which have taken you years to collect and cost you years of labour and suffering. Think but again, think sincerely and picture to yourself what I have just said, and then answer, would you like it, and thank the impudent thief who broke into your house? Certainly not, 1,000,000 times not. And we know when bad things happen to us, when we hear that someone's been beaten up by a gang of bullies, or someone has been robbed, or there's been, well, I'm not going to relay it, but we read of these awful stories all the time. The impact it does on somebody's life. Somebody gets raped, that's an impact on their life for forever. They can go and get healing for it and help and turn it around, but many people don't, and then that creates a spiral of darkness and negativity and obviously a lower vibration. And he goes on to say, on the contrary, your whole being would be indignant and would wish to punish this thief, and with every fibre of your psyche you would try to find a means of revenge. Well, many of us go through that. We all want revenge for what's been done to us, the wrongs that have been done to us, though we must also remember there are wrongs we have done to others. And the wrongs we've done to others, they haven't forgotten about it, they're feeling the same way. They want to punish us for what we've done to them with every fibre of our psyche. It's all the part of this thought forms and wishing. Are we well-wishing, or are we wishing evil upon people because of what they've done to us? Those thought forms going out like a vibration affect the atmosphere of the universe, affect the atmosphere around you, affect the atmosphere of those you come across and are meeting. We all have our daydreams where we imagine awful things happening to those that have hurt us. And we, again, are sending them thoughts outwards, even though it's just an imagination. We think our thoughts are private, but they do roll out from us into the universe. Rudolf Steiner says that everything we think about goes into the Akashic record that's the record of all our lives. I think most people think it's of our actions and our deeds. It's like a movie of what we're doing every day, every moment of our lives. But Steiner says, and I find this very interesting, it's not what we actually do, it's what we think that makes the Akashic record. So it's like our thought forms are going up into it and being kept hold of. And remember, Gurdjieff talks about reels. Our deeds and thoughts and everything are put onto reels that are kept. I don't think he uses the words Akashic records. I'll have to double check all that and look it up. So he's talking about how we all secretly wish for revenge. And Gurdjieff says, in Beelzebub's voice, in all probability you would now reply that although it is indeed so, I am, however, only a man. That is true, you are only a man. It is good that God is God, and is not so vindictive and evil as man. We have to remember that God is. The divine sources all love him. He understands, or she, it, whatever you want to call the divine source, understands what we're going through. And, as we're now going to get on to, a very important part of it, forgives us. Gurdjieff writes, "Certainly he," as in God, "will not punish you, nor will he revenge himself upon you as you would punish the mentioned robber who destroyed the property and goods it had taken you years to collect. It goes without saying, God forgives everything. This has even become a law in the world." And it is an important law, a very, very potent one as well. If we can learn to forgive, and truly forgive, not just say it. I've heard many people say, "I'm sorry," in the most contradicting, downward, unbelieving tone possible. But if you really mean it, that you're sorry, and that you forgive someone, it creates a higher vibration within oneself. Forgiveness is a magical energy, and if we really use it and implement it in our lives, for all that's happened in the past, and continue to use it in the future, and we can learn to forgive people for their actions, forgive God for his actions if we need to, that energy that's created will help us to develop. And it's not a lowering of oneself. Some people don't want to forgive people because they need to hold on to that anger and that revengeful thoughts that one has, seeking vengeance and such like, which are quite dark and deep, leaden feelings. We can lighten the load. We want to lighten the load, go forward in love and light, which I know all sounds all new agey, but it is a different feeling and a better way of being than pulled down into the darkness. So it goes without saying, God forgives everything. This has even become a law in the world. But his creations, in this case people, must not abuse this all-gracious and everywhere penetrating goodness of his. They must not only care for, but even maintain all he has. And this is something we again are having to work on ourselves. We want to maintain the higher vibrations. And as it says here, the divine source with his forgiveness is all gracious and everywhere penetrating goodness. And we must be all gracious and everywhere penetrating goodness. And I know it's hard to implement, but it's something we can work on with ourselves as we go forward and remember that we should love everything that breathes.